I will take questions, but more importantly, no, not more importantly, is that Juan is going to take the opportunity now to show his cartoons instead of my depressing lecture slides. So, but please, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, yes, thank you very much. It was really interesting. Could you maybe comment on the recent threat to resign from Javad Zarif and the connection with Assad's visit to Tehran? Or if you have any insights on this?
Yeah. I think that, well, I've been reading about what was going on, and Zarif is, of course, the face, the friendly face of Iran. I've seen him several conferences, and he's really, really good. So, but of course, he's also seen because he's doing that as a friend of the West. So the conservative forces in Iran, by the way, if you think that Iran is a monolithic regime, that's absolutely not the case. So big, big, big infights. So, and the conservatives hate someone like Zarif and Rouhani, the president, because they have made this deal on the nuclear deal with the West, which the conservatives think first was not needed and second was too cheap. And they said the promise that came out of that was, of course, economic wealth, prosperity. And then when the United States pulled out of the agreement, then they blocked everyone investing in Iran. So the promise of the deal came not through. But not sure if that was exactly the problem of Zarif. I'm not, of course, nobody will know, but I think that he felt not being taken seriously as a foreign minister, that he could go to conferences and talk and blah, blah, make everybody happy, except being the real guy for foreign policy. So when there was this meeting with Assad, he was not there. And this is, of course, a crucial meeting. So I think it was perhaps a rather emotional thing to do for this, because he was, well, in politics, of course, if you do not stand your ground firmly on such a moment, then you will be left out of all meetings in the future. So he was like, okay, I'm going to get on the brakes, make sure it's not happening again. So, and I think that's, you can only do that once, you know, so but that's what he did. But I think it's more about that. Oh yeah, first there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you also from my side. I have a question. When the Arab Spring was there was a lot of hopes that this would be the birth of a democratic period for the Middle East. I think in the analyses that you presented now, it seems that the two big forces are, on the one hand, the autocrats, and on the other hand, the Islamists. I wonder, what is your opinion? Is there still room for a democratic movement as well in the Middle East at this point?
Absolutely. By the way, when I said these two blocks, of course, these are power blocks, people in power. I mean, I'm not talking about the ground. I mean, the people. So, no, I'm very much convinced that I mean, in many, many minds, this idea of democracy, liberty, and is still there, absolutely still there. But everybody is depressed, of course, because the situation is worse than it was before. So, and countries like Europe, I mean, are now apparently big friends with all these dictators because they stop the migrants from coming to Europe. So, so they were there last weekend on a happy family picture. So, because, yeah, I mean, they help us, we help each other, we need each other. So that's again the sad situation we had seen before 2011. But you know, I mean, everybody is hoping on Tunisia to succeed, so that at least that country shows that it is possible. And actually, when I was talking about Libya, it was also perfectly possible. I mean, that was a country, when I went there several times, I mean, there was no police, there was no army, there was actually nothing. And the government of Libya asked Europe to help them. I mean, you saw Libya was a train to be going to crash against the wall, and every week it was like 1 meter close to the wall. They said, help us, help us. And we said, yeah, difficult, maybe later, what are we going to do? So it was going to happen, unfortunately, but it was not necessary. It was not necessary. So, and I also believe that in Syria, things would have been very different if Obama would have respected his own red line and did even a few small attacks. I think the Assad camp would have collapsed. I mean, 2013, September, I'm right, yeah? So this is a very long time ago, you know? So some things are what they are now, because also we, as the West of as Europe, have not done what we could or should have or promised to do. So we are partly responsible for things that went wrong. Having said that, when you see what's happening in Algeria and Sudan, partly in Egypt and other places, I mean, these people are actually saying, we know what went wrong, but we're going to take the risk, because in Libya today, it's still much better than it was under Gaddafi. Be sure of that. It might be a mess, but at least it's an okay mess, I mean, compared to Gaddafi. And that's the thing that a lot of people sometimes forget, how bad it was also before 2011. But I'm convinced that this ghost, this spirit of freedom was let out of the bottle in 2011, and it's impossible to put it back in. So it will come back. We don't know why, but it will come back.
Thank you. You actually sort of touched upon some of the question I wanted to ask, which is if you could say a little bit more about what Europe is doing in relation to the Middle East in terms of the conflicts you're talking about, and what it should be doing.
On Yemen, I mean, nothing has been done. On Syria, I mean, we pulled out as Europe. So the ones negotiating on Syria are today actually, well, it's Turkey, Russia, Iran. Yeah, I mean, we're out of the game. So we were once in the game. We have done a few good things as European Union, but today we're nowhere. So it's Syria, we're nowhere. In Libya, it's actually even worse, because one of the reasons why this conflict, and which has the support of several sides, I mean, I hope I made that point clear. There are also European sides who are supporting, European countries, sorry, who are supporting several sides. And that's the most dramatic thing. I mean, well, Italy is supporting the government in Tripoli, I mean, so the consensus government of Serraj. Why? Because Serraj knows that he needs the Italians in order to be in power. So, and in order to be in power and get the favor of Italians, he's giving them all what he wants. So the deal that the Italians made, was not the Europeans, but the Italians made, while the Europeans were silent, about pushing back the migrants and paying militias to do that, and organizing camps where we now have seen people are actually tortured in European-funded camps, detention camps in Libya. I mean, what the hell, you know? So, but this conflict is protracted by exactly a fight between France and Italy over Libya. And if Haftar is making this movement pretty quickly now, why is he doing that? Because he has the support of France. Why was this big fight between Italy and France about this ambassador and the yellow vest? Of course, that was about. It's not just that. No, it's much deeper. It is a lot about Libya, because the French, by Haftar, have been taking all the southern oil fields, the most important oil fields of Libya, who are run by Eni. So the Italian oil company, who is, by the way, also running the Egyptian ones. So the French have been actually captured Italian oil. So that's also on the heart of the conflict. And that's extremely sad that a fight between two European countries is making the war in Libya worse than it should be. So the first thing we should do as Europe is very easy. I mean, is agree on a common policy. That would be a great first step. And second, just executing a policy would also be a great step.
Thank you very much for adding that about Libya. I actually did some research on Libya, and I pretty much agree with your point of view about the European diversion on that there is no current policy concept. I would go back to the point where you said that we might gonna have some issues, particularly in Syria, of Daesh fighters or ISIL fighters re-emerging. How particularly do you think the risk really is of Syria becoming another fief of ISIS fighters? Since we had this in 2016, I particularly did research on that, and they were kind of drawn out due to several reasons. I would rather see that coming ISIL back in Afghanistan with a lot more operating than for now in the north of Libya. But maybe you could give me some more insight on that. Thank you.
I must have explained in the wrong way, but I was not saying that they were going to regroup in Sirte. So in Sirte, I think they were there, they were kicked out. So, but I'm just saying that there are still 600 to 1,000 fighters in Libya. So I assume they're not just playing pool, so they are just waiting for something to happen. So, and they are not there because they were there. No, they came there. I mean, also out of Syria and Iraq. So why would they move from there to Libya? It's with a purpose. So I agree that there are other places, but I could talk about Malaysia and Afghanistan, but I thought the Middle East is already complex enough. Let's keep it for that. So I don't know where, but they are there, and I mean, if nothing is going to happen there, that would surprise me. I saw another question. Okay, yeah.
Hello. So my question is much more related to Turkey and the future of the extension of their intervention in Syria, because they're already there. And how do you think that's going to go, both internally inside of Turkey with the PKK and the Kurds, and in the dialogue with Syria, Russia, US?
Just in general, the future of what Turkey is going to do?
Not general in their external policy, just related to the invasion into Syria and their refusal to accept the Kurdish at their border.
Well, something extraordinary happened last week, or even this week, is that Turkey has bought a huge amount of ammunition, rockets. Yeah, my knowledge of arms is very limited, so it's called S-400. I have no idea what it is, but it's important and big, and it's deadly. So, and it's thrown from planes, apparently. So, so they bought these arms from Russia. I mean, Turkey is a NATO country, so a NATO country doesn't buy arms from Russia. Certainly, if these arms, in the end, can't be used by the F-16s or F-35s of the other American fighter jets. So does that mean that in the near future we will see Russian MiG fighters in Turkey? So Turkey is, of course, slowly, and Russia knows this very well, is slowly moving away out of NATO. So if you then see that the Kurds has this protection from the United States, so, and Turkey is moving quickly away from the United States, I think this means, this is a signal that with the agreement of Russia, I think that something is going to happen. So you see this alignment of Russia and Turkey that is becoming pretty close. Some time ago, now I actually forgot the year, I believe it was also 2 years ago, Turkey shot down a Russian plane who crossed the border from the Syrian-Turkish border. And then a moment, the tension was very high. So, and they had some warships coming from Crimea into the Aegean Sea. But then they sat together and suddenly things changed. And I think that the connection between authoritarian leadership has certainly nothing to do anymore with the long, decades-long cooperation that Turkey had with NATO. So something is happening there. It's very clear. So, but it goes the Putin way. So small steps. So not enough for NATO to say now you're out. No, because we of course also need Turkey. There's an American naval base in Turkey, and so forth and so forth. So it's extremely interesting, but also frightening what is going on and how the evolution is going to be. But the tendency, the trend, I think, is clear.
Thank you for the great lecture, and particularly thank you for bringing some aspect of political economy to your explanation of conflicts, talking about oil and gas. I would like to continue talking what you just mentioned about weapons, arms trade. So my question is like two parts. The first part is, where's arms trade from all of these conflicts, from a political, economic perspective or strategic perspective, the flow of this kind of trade and how it influences the conflicts on the ground? And the second part of the question is some sort of naive, hypothetical question. If like Europe and hopefully the US decide to stop exporting arms to the Middle East, do you think the change on the ground would be significant, or the conflicts would continue the way they do? Thank you.
Thank you for these easy questions. One thing that is interesting or strange is that the three countries that have been buying arms massively in the last few years are Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the Emirates. Egypt actually was last year the fourth largest importer of arms, which for a poor country that cannot fix trains is a massive investment. So a country like Egypt has always been, I mean, Saudi Arabia has the money, they even have some arms, but they don't have soldiers, or very few soldiers. So why is Egypt so important for Saudi Arabia and the Emirates is because Egypt has the army. So when Iraq invaded Kuwait in '91, I mean, it was Egyptian soldiers who were asked to come to the border of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait because the Saudis don't have their own proper army, or at least it's not big. So for the Saudis, this Egyptian army is very important. But what I think Egypt has the plan, if you see what is going on, the power of the army that is becoming massive in every aspect. I mean, they rule everything. And they rule the economy, they rule the country, they rule everything. And you see the massive arms coming in. I mean, the direction Egypt is going is very clear. So they want to be a #1 military country to take the lead again in the region. So I think that's the plan of Sisi. It's really like we build the strongest army. So, but that's long term. I mean, short term, I don't see this leading to anything. I don't know about let's say the arms going to Jordan and so forth, or even I don't know the numbers, you know. So how big that is. What is clear, however, is that in Libya, I mean there's a desert highway, you know. So there's a desert highway going from Sudan over Libya, just the southern part of North Africa, and that is a highway of people, of human trafficking, but of course also a highway of arms. And an Algerian source told me that they thought that there were at least 1 million arms going around on this desert highway. 1 million. So I mean, it's pretty big. So, and arming who? Arming what? I mean, you have Boko Haram is there, ISIS is there. I mean, the Janjaweed militias are there. So, I mean, it's ready for another eruption in some way or another. So, but that's not the MENA. Then we're going more to the south. So, but that can also go to the north, and of course, a large part of Algeria is also part of that desert. So if suddenly 500,000 arms are moved to Algeria and given to the wrong people, then we get in a new civil war. So, and the United States, by the way, complained that arms they had given to Saudis also went to the wrong people, but it's not clear to what people. It's probably going to be Al-Qaeda in Yemen, I assume. So, so I think the amount of arms that is floating around where nobody knows where they are, and it must be massive. I think nobody has numbers. It must be millions. So that's the best I can do to answer your question. Okay, then I would like to change the floor, to give the floor back to Thomas, who is going to ask the cartoonist some questions. He's coming from Damascus, so he still knows, I think, much better what war is and what war means than I do. Please, Thomas, I give you the floor.
So he's still drawing, but I'll have to ask you to come here. So thank you, Koert, for the extremely interesting lecture. And welcome also to Juan. As I was saying in the introduction, you were born in Syria, but now you live and you work in France. The main topics that you draw about is the Syrian revolution, but also the situation of Syrian detainees, refugees, and so on. But of course, you were one of the first, actually, after the revolution to gain international fame, also through your Facebook page, and to gain an audience as well. But of course, in these last couple of years, a lot has changed. So I was wondering, how can we see the evolution of what happened in Syria on the ground? How is this reflected in your work? And we will try to do it in English, but there's also an Arabic translation available. So,
sorry, I want to speak in Arabic because I need to speak what I need, what I'm feeling. It's maybe better for next language. Sorry.
Okay. So I'm gonna do the translation. Anyhow, عم يسألك إنه كيف تغيرت الثورة السورية، كيف أنت واكبت الثورة السورية من أول ما بلشت من خلال أعمالك والشهرة اللي أنت حققتها نتيجة مواكبتك للثورة. كيف اشتغلت أو كيف تفاعلت مع هذا الموضوع من البداية وكيف هلا أنت عم تكمل فيه؟
Sorry, I want to speak in Arabic, but I don't know Arabic, but I need to...
احكي بالعربي أنا بترجم. Okay.
أنا بلشت بالثورة مع الناس اللي بلشت اعتقلت بعد 15 يوم. هذا خلاني أفوت أكثر وأتعمق بالموضوع. بعد 6 شهور صرت مطلوب للأمن بعد الاعتقال. اضطريت أسافر تركيا، مصر، الأردن، لبنان، شمال سوريا. هي التنقلات خلال 3 سنوات، حدود 20 مرة سافرت. ممكن الشيء اللي عم يخلي الرسم او شيء ممكن بيشبه الناس انه انا من الاساس بحب هذا، يعني بحس الكاريكاتور هو شعبي جدا جدا جدا. الشخص البسيط يعني الفن المجاني هو الكاريكاتور. فانا بالثوره كنت عم بشتغل على المواضيع اللي بتخص الشخص العادي. فلما اجت الثوره حسيت حالي بعرف شو عم بيصير بكل البلد.
Okay, merci. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So he started drawing from before the Syrian revolution, but when the Syrian revolution has started, he wrote about what's happening, and after like 15 days of the beginning of the Syrian revolution, he was jailed by the Syrian intelligence, and he stayed there for 2 months, so he gets more deep inside about the work of the intelligence against the uprising that happened in Syria. After 6 months of his release, he went out of Syria, and he was going from a country to another country in the Middle East. He kept focusing through his friend about what is happening on the ground, drawing day by day, like for every occasion that he can draw about. He traveled like 20 times in the Middle East in 3 years. And he chose to continue drawing because he feels like cartoons is something very touching and it's very direct that every simple man, or I mean like every citizen, can understand directly what is the meaning of it. So yeah, this is the...
Yeah, and also because of course the situation got worse year by year. And there's this quote from Adorno, so good luck translating that. But Adorno, the German philosopher, who said there's no poetry after the Holocaust. So by which he meant some things are so cruel that you cannot even put it into words, but you also can't put it into any artistic form, not poetry, not a painting, not the cartoons, not anything. So the question is basically, has he come across a point also in what he's been doing the last years, that some situation was so cruel what he saw, and I'm thinking of the gas attacks of the regime, I'm thinking of the barrel bombs and so on, that it was so cruel that he said, I cannot even draw about this topic.
عم يقول لك انه في كاتب فيلسوف حكى انه ما في رسم او ما في شعر توصف الهولوكوست، الإبادة الجماعية اللي صارت بحق اليهود بالمنطقة بأوروبا. وصلت أنت لشي محل من المحلات ضمن تجربتك بالحرب السورية إنه ما تقدر ترسم الشيء اللي عم يصير، وصلت لمحل محلات إنه هي كانت بنفس القسوة ربما اللي كانت هي موجودة بالهولوكوست اللي صار بأوروبا بحق اليهود. يعني وقفت أنت وصلت لمحل إنه لا أنا ما بقدر أرسم عن الغاز أتاكس، الهجوم الكيماوي اللي صار مثلا بحمص أو بريف دمشق إلى آخره.
هلا بمرحلة معينة حسيت حالي مثل حفار القبور، اللي إذا ما مثل المجتمع الدولي للأسف إذا ما صار مجزرة ما حدا حيتابع الرسومات، ما حدا حيتابع الأخبار، ما حدا حيعرف شو صار. يعني حسيت حالي بمرحلة إنه أنا حفار القبور اللي ما بستفيد إلا إذا مات حدا. وقفت تقريبا 3 شهور ما عاد رسمت، ورجعت بعدين بس ما عاد رسمت دم بعد 2014 تقريبا. الدم ما عاد استعملته ضمن الرسومات، وبلشت أطرح شيء متفائل أكثر لأنه وصلنا لمرحلة بالموت صارت روتينية. يعني خبر الموت صار مثل حدا راح حدا أجا وبس، بكل بساطة لو كان الناس كتير قريبين.
He says like he stopped in different points, especially like what happens in 2013 with this first chemical attack that happened in the suburb of Damascus. He couldn't draw, but at that moment he stopped like for several months, but then he decided that he's not gonna draw blood at all. So he wanted to reflect his feeling with some positive future things that it could come to the Middle East. This switch happened after the first chemical attack that happened in the suburb of Damascus. And until now, he tried as much as possible not to draw blood, like the blood, just that, yeah.
And also maybe a last question, because I know that the revolution for you does not stop at the cartoon table. You were participating in campaigns, you have been arrested as well. And you also have a school project, if I'm not mistaken, in Turkey, for Syrian boys and girls, Syrian children. So I was wondering if you could maybe elaborate on this organization and what your role is in it and what you are doing on the ground.
عم يحكي عن بخصوص المنظمة اللي أنت عملتها بتركيا على جانب الشيء اللي أنت عم تساويه بشكل مستمر بالكامبينز اللي لها علاقة بالثورة وإلى آخره والمجتمع المدني والحراكي. شو هو كان دورك بالنسبة لهي المؤسسة؟ شو هو الشيء اللي أنت كنت عم تساويه ولوين أنت شايفة أنه ممكن توصل وشو وجودها الحالي؟
هلا مع كتر الموت والروتين اللي كل حرب وكل ثورة وكل شيء بيتكرر مثل اللي عم بيصير بسوريا تكرر من 100 سنة من 200 سنة بكل الأماكن والنتيجة نفسها بصراحة يعني بقى وصلت لمرحلة إنه الأمل بالأطفال وهو هذا الشيء الطبيعي يعني نحن ككبار فايتين بمشاكل كتير الأطفال هن أهم شيء بال 2012 تقريبا رحت على شمال سوريا أنا وشاب تاني وبعدين صرنا بلشنا نجمع الشباب الباقيين أسسنا منظمة اسمها ياسمين بلدي كان مهمتنا أنه نشتغل دعم نفسي الدعم النفسي ما كنا دارسين أنا بحب هذا المجال وكنت أشتغله بشكل تطوعي قبل الثورة مدرسة بتهتم بالأطفال التوحد الجزء الثاني
Okay, can I translate the first part? Okay, thank you. So he started an organization that take care of kids who fled away to Turkey. It was with
شمال سوريا
okay. It started in the north of Syria during the war. He traveled in Syria to Syria at that moment, and he started the organization there. Yeah, and he stayed in that area for 6 months. Mainly, it was like to make animation for the kids, like as animators, but they didn't have the experience to give a full support. They didn't study that or anything, but then they search for support for organization from European Union, etc. And now,
الجزء الثاني تبع السؤال نسيت
انه شو هدفها لوين رايحه؟
هلا ما وقفت لانه عفوا اوكي المنظمه وقفت لانه نحن ما بناخذ تمويلات بنعتمد على التبرع او التمويلات المشروطه لو مبطنه وبصراحه بعد الموضوع اللي صار بسوريا بالحرب ولا ثوره ولا اي شيء أي تمويل في شيء مبطن داخله بسوريا ولا بأي مكان بالعالم أي مساعدة عم تكون مبطنة هذا الشيء اللي عم بيخلينا يعني مثل حدا ما فينا يعمل أي شيء ممكن هذا سبب كبير من سبب الهجرة واللجوء كان إنه ما عاد في أمل من أي شيء لأنه أنت ما لك علاقة الكبار صاروا مسؤولين عن بس.
Okay. The organization has stopped after like 1 year of working 4 years. Okay, after 4 years, it was because they didn't accept to get subsidies as like funds. They wanted to work through charity, and they want to work directly with Syrian like with the similar situation from Syrian people who get the experience on working with kids. He kind of refused to get funds because all the time it has a conditions or like in between lines conditions that can put some different ideologies in the heads of the kids that can think about Syria differently. They refused a lot of offers that came from some Arab countries, kind of, from Egypt and Beirut. Yeah, because of the ideology that it was standing behind that. And after 4 years, they stopped the organization, but he is willing to continue if the conditions will come in a better situation, let's say, or with less conditions from the funders. And he ended that it's not, it's not something decided by him, it's above by people in power who is standing behind all ideologies and all the projects and how the money goes to fund the projects. Yeah.
Okay, I think we can wrap it up here.
Yeah.
You know, we will be around, so there's time for questions still here with Koert and Juan. But thank you very much, Koert, for the masterclass. Shukran kathir. Next time my Arabic will be better. I promise. And the last thing, the 12th of March, we have the next masterclass, and this is the Egyptian-American journalist Mona El Tahawi, and she will speak about feminism and the role of women in the Arab world. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.